associating me with that Luke the situation because I went to the Boosie pool party and he happened to be there and he happened to be standing on me.
Boosie Badass just shook the whole industry after locking in a federal plea deal that, according to Street Talk, might have Jay Prince and his well-known Dice crew directly in the sights of federal investigators. This isn't just some random headline. This could be the start of something big. If what people are whispering is even partly true, this case is no longer about a simple gun charge. It's much larger. We're talking about the lid being blown off a high-stakes vice operation that has quietly taken advantage of rappers for years. And here's the shocking part. The same feds who have been digging into the tragic death of Duke the Jeweler are now retracing every single name connected to those late-night dice sessions, nights where millions of dollars supposedly changed hands and where outsiders never seemed to catch a break. Now, with Boosie agreeing to a deal with the government, everyone's asking the same thing. Is he just protecting himself? Or is he ready to hand over names that could bring down one of the most feared groups in hip-hop? Because let's be honest, if the rumors are true, this could put Jay Prince, the man accused for years of running Houston's checking culture, under the kind of federal attention you can't talk your way out of. People are already reading between the lines, wondering if Boosie just served mob ties up on a platter. The streets are saying this whole setup, this entire operation, might be heading toward its final chapter. And all of it traces back to that dice game where Duke the Jeweler tragically lost his life. That's the detail nobody can overlook. What looked like a simple gambling night has turned into a full-scale federal storm. And if you've been around Houston long enough, you've heard the talk. Those dice games that always seem to end with the house on top, no matter who showed up. Dice games have been part of Houston's underground scene for decades, but the ones tied to Jay Prince Jr. were on another level. These weren't small-time games in some back room. These were elite, high-stakes gatherings, invite-only, where the buy-in alone could equal someone's yearly income. The rules were strict, the money was wild, and the infamous check-in culture made sure the house always knew exactly who was sitting in the room. But here's the twist. People swear there was always a hidden catch at these nights. Mob ties allegedly had their own playbook. First, they'd bring in rappers and high rollers into a private space, drinks flowing, women around, and stacks of cash piled high enough to look like a movie scene. That's when the dice trickery began. Charleston White even hinted at it, though only a few paid attention. People in Texas already know what the game is.
You like the strip club, you like to do this, you check in with them, they bringing them bad dice on you. Why you think that Duke the Jeweler, they really couldn't get him, that's why they had to come on.
But for those who did pay attention, the message was clear. The setup was run like a well-oiled machine, smooth and cold. Word is, the Mob Ties crew kept 3 guys in constant rotation, one rolling, one holding, one swapping, and the dice weren't fresh out of the box. These cubes were allegedly altered, shaved, and weighted just enough to tilt the odds wherever they wanted. And the idea was simple. The house always wins. Reports claim Jay Prince Jr. pocketed a clean 30% cut every time. Meanwhile, the losers walked out lighter, humiliated, and too scared to speak up. But the night Duke the Jeweler showed up, things didn't go the usual way. He wasn't some rookie gambler who didn't know the streets. Duke came in with cash, knowledge, and self-assurance. He had just left a Boosie concert covered in millions worth of custom jewelry, moving with the kind of confidence only money and reputation can buy. But no one saw how fast that confidence would flip the whole night upside down. Somehow, whether by accident or chance, Duke ended up with dice that weren't meant for him. And then it happened. He started winning. First a few stacks, then tens of thousands, until he was up nearly $100,000 in a game designed for outsiders to always lose. In the leaked footage, you can see the change. The energy shifted. The smiles disappeared, whispers spread, and the friendly vibe turned tense. Because in a setup like this, winning that much wasn't luck, it was disruption. And disruption in that circle came with consequences. Minutes later, Duke walked out to his car. No heavy security, no large entourage, just him. That's when the shots rang out. Chaos broke loose, and before anyone could even grasp what had happened, Duke was gone. Now here's the chilling detail. His jewelry was still on him. His money wasn't touched. Even his Louis Vuitton bag, filled with over $1 million in custom pieces, was left untouched. That makes one thing clear. This wasn't robbery. It was about control, about sending a message. Duke disrupted the system that night, and he paid for it with his life. And remember, Duke wasn't just any gambler at the table. He was a respected Chicago jeweler with a client list most rappers would dream of. His custom pieces were worth millions, his skill unmatched, and his presence big enough to make him a regular at major hip-hop events. So when Boosie invited him to Houston, Duke thought it was strictly business, networking, showing off his work. That Louis Vuitton bag? It ended up at Boosie's house. His explanation was simple. He claimed Duke asked him to hold it during the dice game, and after the shooting, it stayed with him. But the streets don't buy that story, and neither do the feds. See, Duke's phone went dark right after it pinged near Boosie's recording studio. Federal investigators say they have surveillance footage, text messages, and witnesses that place Boosie's circle in Duke's final hours. That turned the situation from suspicious to explosive. And it gets deeper. The feds reportedly focused on Boosie's own nephew as the possible shooter. Instead of lumping this into Boosie's other charges, they separated Duke's case as a standalone federal investigation, giving it undivided attention. No distractions, just focus on what happened that night. That's why the Louis Vuitton bag isn't just an accessory. It might be the key detail dragging Boosie's name deeper into the case. On the streets, this looks dangerous for him. His name keeps circling back to the same night, and now people are saying his plea deal might not only be about the 2023 gun charge. Some believe it could be tied to the Duke case, where prosecutors are digging hard and refusing to blend it in with his other cases. And that's what has the industry on edge. If the feds are treating Duke's death as a separate incident, it means they see it as more than a random occurrence. They view it as calculated, possibly part of a bigger pattern. That's a federal pressure tactic. By isolating the case, they can use it as leverage, showing a little mercy on one charge if you give them answers on another. And let's be honest, the Duke case is full of red flags for Boosie's crew. First, Duke's phone pinged near Boosie's studio right before it shut off. That's the kind of breadcrumb agents build entire timelines around. Then, items were reportedly found in Duke's rental car connecting to Boosie's circle. Add in multiple witness accounts, and it's clear why investigators are circling tighter. And here's the part Boosie can't control. Rumors that some of his own people are already talking to the feds. That's how these cases always break. The moment one folds, stories start changing. And the fastest way out for anyone stuck in it is to give up bigger names. So picture Boosie, facing a federal gun charge, Duke's death under separate investigation, and the risk of his crew flipping. Suddenly, cutting a deal doesn't look weak. It looks like survival. And survival means giving the feds something they can't get without you. And that's where things get dangerous. Because in this case, only two names could make the feds back off, J. Prince Jr. or his father, J. Prince. The same names tied to some of the most infamous dice games in Houston history. One night ended in Duke's death, another night Takeoff was killed outside a separate dice game. Different events, same chilling pattern. Big money, big names, and violence before sunrise. Now the industry can't stay quiet. WAC 100 directly accused J. Prince Jr. of running setups, luring rappers into games they can't win unless allowed to. Charleston White backed it up, calling these nights outright traps, rigged with loaded dice, tight control, and an unspoken rule. If you win too much, you become a target before you can even pocket your cash. All this paints a picture of a system built on smoke and mirrors, with power plays happening in the shadows. And here's what has people nervous. If Boosie really starts talking, naming names, the entire check-in culture that's dominated Houston for years could collapse overnight. Imagine the fallout if the feds confirm mob ties wasn't just a rumor, but an organized racket backed by fear and violence. And once that thread unravels, it doesn't stop. Artists with no connection to the beef are already backing out of Houston. Big names skipping shows, avoiding appearances, steering clear of anywhere mob ties might have influence. It's already happening. On paper, J. Prince Sr. denies the existence of a check-in rule, but insiders say the pressure is real, just more polished now, enforced through J. Prince Jr.'s crew instead of old-school street muscle. And after 2 high-profile deaths tied to dice games, even the boldest names in hip-hop are questioning if Houston is worth the risk. And here's the thing. The fear isn't just about stray bullets, it's about the politics. Once you're in that circle, it stops being about money. It's about who you're standing next to when things turn. Veteran rappers have quietly warned newcomers, stay out of Houston dice games. The message is simple. When the game is bigger than dice, survival means not playing at all. Take Finesse 2 Times as an example. He went from being tight with J. Prince Jr., taking pictures, moving with the crew, to suddenly airing out bad blood in public. He accused them of cheating him financially, called out shady deals, and hinted at disrespect behind the scenes. That showed cracks in the Prince empire. Then came the rumors, whispers about a baby mama scandal that made things worse and revealed deeper rifts. What once looked like solid unity in mob ties now looks shaky, with public fallouts and private scandals piling up. True or not, that drama only fueled the fire, making the talk louder that J. Prince Jr. is losing allies faster than he can replace them. And it's not just rappers pulling back. Record labels are watching too. With so much focus on these dice game controversies and the violence tied to them, execs are quietly telling their artists to stay away from mob ties. They know one bad headline can ruin an entire rollout. No brand wants to be linked to something that can turn into a crime scene on Instagram Live. That's why if Boosie really starts naming names, it won't just shake Houston, it could send shockwaves through the entire rap game. Nobody's career is safe if the feds get a clear picture of who's involved. But let's pause and focus on mob ties. Until now, most of the talk has been rumors and speculation, but behind the scenes, the feds are reportedly working on a much bigger move. And it's not just about dice games. According to whispers, the investigation could even connect to Houston's own police department. Recent federal sweeps have already taken down major drug and gang networks in the city, and some of the same names reportedly overlap with mob ties. That's what makes this serious. If those links check out, mob ties could be staring at a federal takedown. And this isn't light work. Agencies like the FBI, DEA, and ATF are said to be working together. These operations aren't about grabbing small players. They're designed to dismantle entire networks, from the street shooters to the money movers behind the curtain. That's the exact blueprint they could use if mob ties becomes the next target. And the whispers in Houston are growing. Some say sealed warrants are already in play, the kind that can flip into overnight arrests. Every handshake, every backroom deal, every off-the-record move is under a microscope. But here's the bombshell. It might only take one piece of evidence to break the case wide open. Imagine a leak